John Schreibfeder. I'm president of a company called Effective Inventory Management. All we do is help you make the most out of your investment in stock inventory. Our goal is to allow you, as I say here, to meet or exceed customers' expectations of product availability. But we want to do that with the amount of each item that's going to maximize your net profits or minimize your total inventory investment. As Jeannie said, today we're here to discuss consumer products in specific forecasting challenges you have in dealing with consumer products. Jeannie, let's go to the next slide. What challenges do you face? Well, demand for certain products in a consumer environment can vary by the day of the week or even individual hours within a day. Unfortunately, most computer systems only forecast demand for products by the month. As we're going to see, this can lead to some very, very challenging situations. Secondly, because many products are marketed for only a short period of time, you can't develop adequate sales history for specific products to forecast future sales. Along with that, many products experience highly seasonal demand. A lot of them have very high sales during a very short time period during the year. Let's go ahead. Okay. We also have to consider when we look at future usage, future sales, forecasting what we're going to sell in the future, discounts, other promotions. How have they affected sales previously? How can we predict they will affect future demand of specific products? Okay? External factors such as the economy, the weather, can also affect how much product you will sell in the future. We even have to look at things like the total capacity of the market. Some products will stop selling when everybody has one, or you'll sell far fewer. Okay? So we have a lot of challenges. Let's go on one more, okay? And let's start by discussing the appropriate time period of the forecast. As I said before, most software systems calculate monthly forecasts for items. They'll predict what you're going to sell in September or October or November. Retailers often find that sales vary throughout the month or even by the day. Let's look at an example on the next slide. Okay, you can see by this slide, this is an item, and most computer systems will give us a forecast by the month. You can see that we sold 154 in March, 100 in April, 145 in May, 80 in June. So we're selling about an average of 117 pieces. But if you are a retailer in a retail environment, you may find a significant pattern of sales during the month. Let's go on. Okay. You can see, and I took this from one of our clients who happens to sell office products. They sell about 150 to 170 pieces of a certain item per month. But you can see from this diagram that the majority of the sales occur in the first week of the month. If we were to calculate a forecast by day based on a total monthly demand, we'd be selling, as you can see down at the bottom of the screen, about 5 or 6 pieces per day. This is not going to give us adequate inventory in the first week of the month. Now, the first week has 7 days in it, 5 pieces per day, 7 times 5, 35 pieces. Okay? We base it on actual average demand during the month. But you can see in the first week I sold 75, the second week 80, third week 90, the first week in the first month, I sold 75. The first week in the second month, I sold 80. The first week in the third month, I sold 90. I'm not going to have adequate inventory. Next slide, please, Jeannie. I took this next example from one of our food retailers, and you can see if you display the bottom of your screen that the majority of their sales occur on Saturday and Sunday over the weekend. We have to be sure that we have adequate stock for those days. Now, if we go to the next slide, you'll see the total impact of not using the proper forecast horizon. This is actually the usage history that you saw on the previous slide. This customer, when we started working with them, was using a weekly forecast. For this particular product, they forecast they're going to sell 1,422 pieces during a specific week. That turns out to be 203 pieces per day. Now, they can receive shipments every 2 days from their primary supplier. That means if we take a weekly forecast, they'd be planning on selling 406 pieces. That's 2 times 203, 406 pieces during any 2-day period during the week. But look at Saturday and Sunday over on the far right-hand side. We're selling close to 700 pieces in that 2-day period. I'm going to have 406 pieces on the shelf, or that's what I'm going to plan for. I'm going to be out of stock. If you are forecasting consumer products, you need to know the proper time frame for the forecast. Okay? How do we know the proper time frame for the forecast? Well, if you see patterns of usage during the month, you want to forecast by the week. If you see patterns of usage during individual weeks, you want to forecast by the day. Okay, let's go to the next slide. A simple method of forecasting, and you might want to try this just to see how well you do, how accurate the results are. If you need a weekly non-seasonal forecast, average the last 3 occurrences of the same week of the month. If you have the majority of your sales occurring in the first week of a month, average the last 3 occurrences of the first week in the last 3 months. If you need to forecast by the day, okay, average the last 3 occurrences of the same day of the week. Average the last 3 Saturdays. Average the last 3 Sundays. Average the last 3 Mondays. Now we have to adjust that for a trend if there was consistent increasing or decreasing usage over the 3-week period. Are sales increasing? Are sales decreasing? We have to adjust the forecast. Now we can do something similar with seasonal products. We're going to start by looking at a monthly seasonal forecast, if you can advance the slide. Okay. This is a product that has seasonal usage. You can see if we start at the bottom right corner in October 2009 and go up through on the top September 2010, you see a definite seasonal pattern with this item. This item becomes much more popular during the winter season, and in late spring, early summer, we're not selling many of this product at all. When we have a seasonal item, and let's go to the next slide, we will start by forecasting this item by looking at what we sold in the upcoming months last year, okay? And we might use what's called a weighted average forecast. If we are forecasting for October 2010, we might look at the history from October and November 2009. And I'm going to treat October's history with a bit more emphasis than November's, okay? And if I weight October's history by 2, November's by 1, divide the extension by the total weight, I will get a forecast for October 2010 of 120 pieces, or excuse me, 420 pieces. Let's move on. Now, that 420 pieces is the basis of our forecast, but as in many forecasts, we need to adjust for the difference in business between last year and this year. And if I look at the past several months, last year versus this year, well, our sales for this item are up 12.1%. If I add 12.1% to that 420, I get a forecast of 471 pieces. But remember I said that for many consumer products, a monthly forecast is not a proper period of time to consider. We need to translate this or adopt this to a daily or weekly seasonal forecast, and we'll do that on the next slide. If you are trying to forecast seasonal consumer products, average the activity in the following week, or the same day of the week, and the same day in the following week in the previous year. Okay. Then adjust that forecast, what you get, for the difference in sales volume between the several previous weeks this year and last year. Now, oftentimes, we need to add a collaborative estimate for anticipated increases or decreases in demand. We're going to go on to collaborative estimates in a few minutes, but a collaborative estimate is management's prediction if sales of an item are going to increase or decrease this year over last year due to some external factor. Okay, could be management's, could be marketing, could be purchasing's decision. Now, this method works very, very, very well if we have history for several years on a product. But many consumer products are only marketed for a very short period of time. If you have seasonally selling products that are only marketed for a short period of time, we need to utilize a different forecasting methodology, something that we call seasonal indexing. And let's go ahead. In my example of seasonal indexing, I am using monthly forecasting only because I can get all the information I need on one slide. In a seasonal forecast, we look at total demand throughout the year of similar products, maybe some products in a product line. And if you look at this chart, you can see that the actual demand that I experienced in January for this particular product line was 4% of total annual demand, 4.2% in February, 6.2% in March, April 7.6%, May 6.8%, etc. Notice that my actual demand for December is 20.4%. This is down in the bottom right-hand corner. That's 5 times as much demand as I experienced in January. Now, how do I adopt this? How do I use this information in forecasting a new consumer item? Well, you notice that I have 8.3% listed as normal demand or average demand in each week. Why do I do that? Because 8.3% times 12 months equals about 100%. I am going to use that normal information against the actual to come up with the forecast. Let's go on now. I know, Jeannie, you're over-anxious. I am too. This is exciting stuff. If you need to use a seasonal index, and we can easily adopt this for daily or weekly forecasting, the first thing that we need to do is normalize every month's usage, okay? And we won't go back to the previous slide, but on the previous slide, you saw that June's actual usage was 6.2% of total annual demand. Okay, 6.2%. Now 8.3% would be our norm. 12 times 8.3% again is 100%. If I use the equation that you see, actual usage times the normal usage, okay, that would be 100 times 8.3% divided by the actual percentage of annual sales, 6.2%, gives me 133 pieces. That is normal usage for June. If this was a non-seasonal product, I would have sold 133 pieces in June. I also would have sold 150 pieces in July rather than the 110 pieces I actually sold. I will create this normalized usage for all of the history that I have recorded on this item so far. Let's go ahead. Now, I have usage for 2 months, June and July. 133 pieces for June, 150 pieces for July. You see that at the top. The average of those 2 months is 142 pieces. If this was a non-seasonal product, I'd be selling about 142 pieces a month. But remember I said before, 20.4%, 1/5 of my total annual sales occurred in December. Well, I use a slightly modified formula to calculate the forecast for December. Okay, I take that 142, which is the usage, the normalized usage, times the percentage of actual sales, 20.4%, divided by 8.3%, my normal percentage, to come up with a forecast for December of 349 pieces. Now, I may have to adjust that for anticipated increases, decreases in demand. That's collaborative estimate. Okay? Again, we're going to deal with collaborative estimates in a few minutes, so just hang on as far as that's concerned. Jeannie, let's go on to the next slide. One of the biggest issues that we have in forecasting for consumer products is that we often don't know about what we call lost sales. A lost sale is a sale you could have made if the product was in stock. How many times does a customer come into your store looking for a product? They don't see it on the shelf. They leave without talking to anyone. Even if they talk to a clerk, how often does a clerk note that someone was looking for a particular item? You didn't have it, so you didn't make the sale. If you look at this chart, and my history here is very interesting, you can see, and my history goes from right to left, from previous week 4 through previous week 1. We sold 1,004 4 weeks ago, 952 3 weeks ago, 1,142 2 weeks ago. We only sold 125 last week. Look at the chart on, or graph, on the right side of the screen. Our sales plummeted. Oh boy, what happened? Did customers suddenly lose interest in this product? Did our salespeople forget how to sell it? What happened? Well, if we look at our records, we were out of stock for 6 days during the week, and if we didn't have it in stock, we couldn't sell the product. Okay, we need to correct our history to reflect what would have happened had that product been in stock. If we don't do that, we are going to have an unusually low forecast. If I forecast based on a 3-week average using the history that you see on the screen, I'm only going to predict I'm going to sell 740 pieces. I'm only going to bring in stock to sell that 740 pieces, and I'm going to be in trouble. Let's go on and solve this problem. Okay, next slide, please. There we go. Okay, if I'm out of stock for 6 days, and I was forecasting that I was going to sell a certain number of pieces per day, I automatically want to adjust my sales history as though I had had the product in stock. Okay, your usage history, okay, may be different from actual sales history because I want that history to reflect what I could have sold had the item been in stock, because I want that history. When I post that history, I want to post information so that I replenish the right item in the right location to meet my customers' anticipated future needs. Now, on this slide, I say this technique should only be used for items that will not accumulate what we call back orders. This is where the customer is willing to wait for the product. Say the customer wanted, I don't know, an iPhone. You were out of stock today, but everybody in town was out of stock of iPhones today. You get some in next week. The customer comes back next week to buy his or her iPhone. Okay. I don't want to record usage, record sales due to the stock out because I'm going to sell that product again anyway. Let's go on and see how I get a better forecast when I adjust usage for those situations where customers won't wait. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. There we go. Okay. If I had a forecast of 147 pieces a day, okay, I was out of stock for 6 days. 6 times 147 is 882 pieces. Again, if I forecast based on a 3-week average, my forecast for the upcoming week is now 1,034. If you look at the usage that I have experienced over the past several weeks, whoa, I'm starting to look at a much better forecast. Now, let's go on to a totally different subject, and this is collaborative information. Let's move on. Okay. Information outside of your past usage history. What you sold in the past may be a good indication of what you're going to sell in the future, but certain things will affect that. You have trends. You also have what we call events. Okay? An event is something that will affect sales that does not occur at exactly the same time each year. Promotions are events. Some holidays are events. Okay? Easter is an event. It doesn't occur on exactly the same date every year. Where Christmas is more a traditional holiday, it always occurs on December 25th. We can look at what we sold during the first, second, third weeks in December for the past several years to get some idea of what we're going to sell during Christmas week. We can't do that with Easter. We can't do that with many other holidays. Okay? In addition to events, external factors outside of your control may affect usage. Okay? Promotions you can control. External factors you can't. By external factors, I'm talking about the economy, the weather, changing market tastes, anything that will affect your business. Usually external factors affect a wide range of products. Sometimes they cause sales to go up. Sometimes they cause sales to go down. Okay? I have some hardware stores. When we have an exceptionally wet spring in a region, sales of certain products skyrocket. Okay? Pumps skyrocket. Tarp skyrocket. Sales of those things skyrocket. On the other hand, some gardening items sales plummet because the ground's too wet to do any gardening. Okay, how do we deal with this? Well, I want you to go from the science of forecasting to the art of forecasting. And let's go on to the next slide. What we like to do, okay, is make a list of all of those external factors, all of those events that you think, that your employees think, will affect sales or usage. Okay? Brainstorm. Make a list of things. The hypothesis, that's a hard word for me to say. The hypothesis states that I think whatever this is, be it a promotion, be it a change in weather, be it a change in the economy, will affect usage, will affect sales. Then test it. Look and see if, in fact, sales did increase or decrease during this particular event or during this external factor. Okay? If it did, we are going to record the results. When this happened, when I ran this promotion, sales went up 25%. I can adjust the forecast to take into account the results of that event or external factor. When that happens again, I can just take a forecast based on past usage history and bump it up by 25%. But what I also want to do, and we're going to look at a couple of examples of this in a second, we want to adjust out the effects of the event from our sales or usage history. This is very important because, after all, this event will not occur at exactly the same time each year. Now let's go on to the next slide. We're going to look at a couple of events. We have Centennial Founders Day, which occurred last April between April 23rd and April 30th. That's when we had the celebration. We also ran two promotions, Promotion 1 and Promotion 2. We ran Promotion 1 twice, once in June and once back in February. Promotion 2, we only ran once in September. Okay? Let's look at Promotion 1 just for a minute. You see, the first time I ran Promotion 1, my sales prior to the event, to the time period during the event, during the first week in June, they rose 26.8%. That's pretty good. Back in February, when I ran this promotion, my sales increased 14%. Well, I'm recording what happened. I know when I run Promotion 1 again, I don't know, but I can pretty much guess that when I run this promotion again, my sales may increase by about, what's the average of 26 and 14? Well, about 20%. I can add that to a forecast based on past sales history to take into account the effects of that promotion. Okay? Notice also towards the right, I have prior to post event. Basically, I want to know what happened to sales. Did sales go up or down after the event ended? I don't want to compare those to the actual time period during the event. I want to compare it to the time period before the event started. You can see that prior to the event, after the event, my sales decreased by about 0.8% the first time, down 4.7% the second time. You usually see a little bit of sales decrease after the event ends because some people will buy the product earlier because it's on sale or because they're getting a special promotion or consideration. But still, if the results prior to the event, to during the event, if my sales increase during the event far outweigh the backlash, the prior to post-event percentage, it's a successful, very successful promotion. But look at promotion number 2 down at the bottom of your screen. When I ran this promotion, sales went up 13.2%. You might say, that's great. But as soon as the promotion ended, my sales decreased 13% from what they were before I even ran this promotion. Okay? People bought a lot of the product, then they didn't buy in equal quantity. Okay? All people did in promotion number 2 was buy the product that they were going to buy anyway while the product was on sale. Promotion number 2 is unsuccessful. I am probably not going to run promotion 2 again. Now, I said before that we have to clean usage history. Let's look at that on the next slide. I have to take the results of the event out of my usage history. That Centennial Founders Day, I called it that because it happens once every 25 years. Once every 100 years. Boy, I'm confused today. Centennial Founders Day, every 100 years we celebrate it. I'm not going to allow for that in the future, but I have to take out the effects of that from my usage history. I have to normalize my usage. You can see during the week of April 23rd when we had Centennial Founders Day, I experienced a 25% decrease in sales during that week. Well, cleaning up usage history, I use the equation, my actual usage, which would be 89, divided by 1 minus the percentage difference. Well, my sales are down 25%. Okay, 89 divided by 0.75, my normal usage would have been 119 pieces during the week of April 23rd. I need to add 30 pieces to my sales history in order to normalize that usage. In this way, I can use April 23rd's sales history in any forecasting methodology and not really negatively affect or adversely affect the accuracy of my forecast. Let's look at the next slide, which gives us promotion number 1. Okay. Promotion number 1 resulted in a 26.8% increase in sales. I need to take that increase out of my usage history. You can see from the week of May 25th through the week of June 1st, week to week, I had a tremendous increase in sales from 462 pieces to 595 pieces. That's a 26.8% increase, but I don't want my usage history to show that because I don't want that blip going into my forecast if I'm not running that promotion again. I'm going to take out 126 pieces using the formula that you saw in the previous slide so that my normalized usage for the week of June 1st is 469. When I run promotion 1 again, I'll take whatever forecast I get, increase it by maybe 20% or whatever I feel that promotion will result in, and I'll get a good forecast. Now, we have a lot of products, as I mentioned before, that have very short lives in your inventory. Some products are only marketed for a month, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. How do we handle those products? Well, there are really several ways. There are really 2 basic ways. Let's go to the next slide. If a product is what we call a perfect supersession, okay? If the product you believe will take over all sales of a previous item, you can just add sales of the old item, the sales of the new item in your sales or usage history, and you'll be fine. This particular example was a new size bottle of ketchup. They decreased the amount in a bottle of ketchup by about, I think it was 3 ounces. Okay? The bottles looked pretty much alike, but they were different items. They had different UPC numbers. we needed to buy the new product in the new size. So the old product we called an A100. The new product was an A102. I just add sales of both products together, and when I use or I reorder, when I replenish my stock of A102, I'm going to use that total sales, the total usage that you see at the bottom of the screen in my forecasting. This, again, works very well, but what if products aren't perfect substitutes or perfect supersessions for one another? Well, we have written some very good inquiry programs. Let's go to the next slide, where you can identify characteristics of certain products in your database. If you have a new item and you want to see how you've sold this type of product in the past, you can do an inquiry of your database on what you sold of similar products, products with a specific set of what we call characteristics, maybe the same brand, type of product, product application, color, style, size, a price point. Okay, similar products in your database with similar characteristics. How did they sell? Okay, we will do an inquiry of your database, get sales by week or by month, whatever the appropriate time period is for all products with a similar set of characteristics to this new item. Let's go to the next slide. Say, for example, we did an inquiry and we found that all told we had five products with a similar set of characteristics. The applicable set of characteristics will vary by product and product line, but we found five products with identical characteristics to this new item. Okay, all told, we sold 250 pieces of these five products in a specific week. We will consider usage history of 50 pieces for the new item in specific weeks when we forecast demand of this product. This is another technique that we use to get around not having a lot of usage history. The final, actually I have two more topics, but let's go on. Let's talk about introducing new items. Okay, new items are often the source of most of your dead inventory. Okay, a lot of new items are dead on arrival because they are purchased emotionally. We have to take as much emotion as possible out of buying new items. And the way we do that is to have the people requesting the new item, be they sales, marketing, whoever it is, I want them to fill out what we call a new item questionnaire. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay. What we have found is that if you don't fill out a new item questionnaire, you run the risk of an item dying. We have done a lot of research, and we found that products with the least chance of dying, by chance of dying I mean you ending up with dead inventory. Products with least chance of dying, you have a firm customer commitment, usually in writing, that if you stock it, they'll buy it. Or perhaps what we call recurring catalog or non-stock products. If you keep ordering a product in, especially for one customer, they continue to use it. If they use it 4 or more times in 1 year, and we found the magic number is 4, they say they're going to continue to use it, well, you probably can bring that item into stock, and you'll be fine. That item will not die. Products with a moderate chance of dying are customer and salesperson suggestions, verbal promises to sell or buy a product if it comes in. Okay, we want to change that moderate chance of dying into a very slight chance of dying. I'm going to do that, as I said a minute ago, with a new item questionnaire that we're going to get to in a second. Items with the greatest chance of dying? Well, believe it or not, these tend to be vendor suggestions. You don't know you need to stock it, but a vendor suggests that you bring it in, you stock it, and see what sales occur. Okay? So be very leery if a vendor suggests you stock a product, but you haven't seen demand from your customers. Your marketing and salespeople are skeptical as to whether your specific customer base will buy that product. Let's go on to the new item questionnaire, which is on the next slide. Okay? 7 questions that need to be answered when you buy a new product or you invest in a new product line. First of all, what type of customer is going to buy the product? What are estimates of sales or usage for each of the upcoming 6 months? How many are you going to sell? And I want numbers on paper. Someone put down, we're going to sell this much, that much, what have you. What effect will usage of this product, what effect will sales of this product have on sales of other existing stock items? Are we going to affect the sales of another item? If this item is going to take away half the sales of another existing stock item, well, I'm going to ask, do I have to stock both items? Can I get rid of the older item? Can I cut my stock of the older item? What is our projected gross margin of this product? How much are we going to make? Okay. How much do I have to buy? How much do I have to invest? Do I have the money available in my available-to-buy budget? Do I have the money to invest in this item? And if I invest in this item, what other new items will I not be able to invest in? Where will this new item be stored? Okay? A lot of us have space problems in our facilities. Your walls of your building are not elastic. We need space to store the item. Finally, if this item doesn't sell as we anticipate, how can we liquidate the remaining stock? Can we return it to the vendor? Can we put it on special and at least recover our cost? I want these 7 questions answered. And in estimating your usage of a new product, go to the next slide if you would. This is the sales pattern of a successful new item. We bring it in, and we see a spurt in activity, usually about 4 to 8 weeks after we introduce the product. Why? Because you're promoting it. Customers are trying it. There's a lot of excitement. And then the product falls into a pretty regular pattern of usage. Okay? I show this to you because don't plan on selling, for most items, 1,000 pieces a week or 500 pieces a week. You're going to see unusual sales during the first, let's say, 4 to 8 weeks after the product is introduced. Now, I want to keep people focused on the new items. Let's go on to the next slide. Every week. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. Before we say we're going to bring this new item in, I want those questionnaires to go to a committee of marketing, sales, management, purchasing people. I want people in management, several people to review those questionnaires. I want them to evaluate how accurate has the specific source of information been in the past. What we found is that if 3 or more members of what we call a new product committee say, yes, it looks like a good idea to invest money in this new product, chances of that new item being successful are very high. We found the magic number is 3. Okay, 3 or more people say bring the new item in. Go ahead, bring it in. You'll be in good shape. If 2 or fewer people say, yes, I think we should invest in this new item, well, I would hesitate to bring that new item in. But I want to keep people focused on these new items. Let's go on. Okay. I want to provide salespeople, marketing, purchasing, with a weekly report of the sales of new items. We're going to measure sales projections will be put on that new item questionnaire against actual sales. We're going to monitor if certain individuals who requested the new item be brought in, how good have their projections been? Do we need to adjust our future forecasts for this particular product? This keeps us focused, sees if we need to promote new items, how effective our people are in selling these new products, etc. We always like to have a budget for new items, a certain amount of money available to invest in new items, and we spend that money any number of ways. And when we sell out, when we sell the entire initial quantity that we bring in, we'll restore money to our new item budget, and we will have material that our customers want on the shelf. Last topic, okay, is distribution requirements planning. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, a lot of you have the problem of long lead times from vendors. Many of you import your consumer products from overseas. You're looking at a 90-day lead time, a 120-day lead time, maybe even longer. If you are dealing with long lead times greater than 30 days, you need software that does what we call distribution requirements planning. A distribution requirements planning system basically forecasts out demand for each of the upcoming 12 months. Every month it produces a forecast for each of the upcoming 12 months. You can see on this screen that the forecast for January of this particular product is 90, February 80, March 95, April 90. We have a different forecast for each month. So if you have to buy in October for delivery in January, the system is showing you what you're going to sell in January, what you predict you're going to sell in January. It will plot out your inventory position month by month, okay, from the current month through the next 12 months, pointing out when you need to receive stock. You see that in red towards the bottom of the screen. We need to receive 50 pieces in February to cover our forecast and any safety stock, any reserve inventory that we want to maintain. We need to receive 100 pieces in March, 100 pieces in April to meet the demands of our forecast, plus fulfill any reserve inventory requirements we want to maintain. Not only does a DRP system show you when you need to receive material, but it will take into account the lead time and how often you can order, and show you when you need to order material to arrive in time when it's needed to meet that sales forecast. You can see I need 100 pieces in March. I have a 60-day lead time. I need to order those 100 pieces back in January. The 100 pieces for April, I need to order back in February. Let's go on. If you use DRP, you have to understand the concept of the order or review cycle. That represents the normal length of time between receiving replenishment orders from the primary source of supply. If you receive orders once a month, you need to order at least a month's supply of that vendor's products. If you receive an order every week, you need to order at least a week's supply of all that vendor's products. A DRP replenishment order needs to cover your needs for that time period between receiving replenishment orders. But that time period is going to start at today's date plus the lead time. 90-day lead time we bring in orders once a month. Well, we're looking at pretty much the month of December right now. Let's move on. Keep in mind that your lead time and order cycle are totally independent of one another. Okay, go on to the next slide. I can have a very short lead time and a long order cycle. A lot of you have long lead times but short order cycles. If you import a line with a 90-day lead time, but you can import a container a week, you're dealing with a 90-day lead time, as you can see in that second example, that second illustration, but a very short order cycle, an order cycle of 1 week. It's critical for this to work that you have both very accurate lead times and order cycles. Let's go to the next slide and just summarize what we've done so far. Okay? In order to be successful in forecasting consumer products, you need to determine the appropriate time period for the forecasts. You need to observe the effects of events, that includes your promotions, and external trend factors. You need to understand how to forecast limited life products, typically by looking at how products with similar characteristics have sold previously. Finally, you need to choose the appropriate forecast horizon, the appropriate time period for your planning. That time period always starts at today's date, plus the lead time, and lasts for that order or review cycle. Well, that's about all I have to say. Let's go to the next slide. If you follow this advice, you will in fact achieve the goal of effective inventory management. I apologize for the technical difficulties we have experienced today, but if you do have specific questions on your consumer products or anything else with inventory management, please let me know. Jeannie, if you go to the next slide, there's my contact information. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jeannie.